Okay, it's recording now. It's recording. Yeah.
And it's recording the call. Oh.
Yes, and I can edit it, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I got my Southern Comfort. You got your I don't know.
Or that I'm trying to light like a half of one because I won't
Wind.
be able to work if I smoke a whole one. That's
Yeah.
like not okay. I still gotta wait 2 hours before I can even move.
Mm. See, I've never had marijuana. I don't know what that feels like.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna put my camera down so I can light, light my blunt.
Wow. That is a Colorado sky.
You're saying Colorado sky?
You sound like an old man. Ah, Colorado sky.
I was
Yes.
trying not to cough.
Ah.
I hate coughing while I'm smoking, but it does help my lungs a lot when I cough.
Let's try to do the whole podcast like that. We'll be like two old men sitting on a bench.
That would be funny as all
How
get
you
out.
doing, Beth? How you doing, Beth?
Now, I wanted to talk about sisterhood and all of the many levels of it and how it differs from group to group and race to race and culture to culture. And even within the same culture, it can
Mm.
differ as far as loyalty is concerned.
Yes.
And we're talking about different levels of loyalty within the sisterhood. Like
Yeah.
I've been in sisterhoods that I didn't even know I was supposed to have a particular kind of loyalty to them, and I didn't know it because it was unspoken. And
Well,
from woman to woman, depending on what her experiences are, will tell what the loyalty of herself to that sisterhood is. Well, you don't always walk into a sisterhood knowing all of those levels of loyalty, you know?
see, but I want to know what it was like for you actually having sisters because I had one brother. I didn't have actual sisters growing up. The dynamic for you is that you actually had real blood sisters your entire life, which I always wished I had, by the way. I always wanted a sister and I just never got one. So how does that change how you think about sisterhood?
I understand. So when I was growing up, we had that's why I said certain levels of loyalty, right?
Yeah.
While we were all being homeschooled, because I was homeschooled till I got to college, and I graduated at 16 from high school and went straight into college. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the years before I turned 16. I had one ideal in my camera of what my sisterhood with my sisters, my siblings, was, right?
Yeah.
I didn't inquire of them to see if they felt the same way. To me, we just all felt the same way until it was put to the test. Sisterhood gets put to the test. That's how you find the different levels of loyalty. It's just like the stock market in that way.
Okay.
Because sisterhood is an emotional thing. You only have loyalty to something. I'm not just talking about sisterhood right now. You only have loyalty to something because of your emotional connection to it, right?
Right. Right.
So I'm a kid. I have sister. I'm the oldest girl, and I have two sisters younger than me, and I have a sister I've never seen before. So that made me oldest girl all the way because I don't see her. She's out of sight, out of mind. I'm big sis, right?
How do you have a sister you never saw before?
Huh?
How do you have a sister you never saw before?
I didn't meet her till my dad died. We had to have his funeral. We met her when she got off of the Greyhound bus for our dad's funeral.
Had you known
We had
about
known
her?
about her our whole lives. Even gave her a Hebrew name because people born in America, if you're not
Who's
born a Jew, you don't have a, a Jewish name. Well, I was
who's
born a
her
Jew. She wasn't.
who's her mother?
Roberta. Roberta is her mom. And her mother, well, that's a whole nother podcast. I don't want to talk about that mess.
All
We're
right.
talking about sisterhood
All
here.
right. Let's talk
I
about
don't have
blood.
with her. The only sisterhood I can say that I have with this oldest sibling is simply our DNA through our father.
See, but
Because
that's
I've tried to have the other respectful levels of sisterhood with her, and she's not ready to do that. Or she wasn't when I was trying. I wanted to have a sister bond with her. and I couldn't form that because we didn't grow up together, and
Well,
she still had feelings.
that's what I'm asking about sisterhood. Is like the blood sisterhood versus the emotional sisterhood. Like you and I are sisters,
Regular sibling. I'm talking about my oldest sister, Olga Elaine Adams.
Her name is Olga, for real?
Yeah,
That's
her
like a
mother
Russian name.
after a Swedish woman.
I was going to say it's very common name in Russia, in
Yeah,
Ukraine. Yes,
so
very
Olga
important.
used to be called Olga, and now we call her Elaine since we were little.
So she's
So
half. What did you say? Swedish? You said what did you say? Swedish?
it's like a Russian name. She even refers to whatever country that she associates her name with is even in where Russia is. It's not Russia, but it's one of those countries around Russia.
So you and I are like blood sisters through this Russian
No,
connection. My Russian sister. Here you go.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I do know that I have Dutch relatives in my line. I have no idea who I'm connected to. That's going to be another podcast
That's another
because
podcast,
I've already found the company I want to do my DNA trace.
which
So
is
we're honest, you and I could be related.
we. I mean, I feel like we're all related at some point, anyways. But we could be
Absolutely.
closer related than we even know. We could be closer. Well,
I
I
think
mean,
we're all related anyway because of Adam and Eve. But back to sisterhood. This
exactly.
sister was not the same kind of sisterhood. The sisterhood I have to her is dedicated at a loyalty level of you're a human being and you're my DNA train. So if I have to defend you, I will, simply based on that. That
What
to me is more of an innate survival kind of sisterhood level. you know,
But what do you feel about women who undermine other women, cut other women down, and don't share these views about
have that
sisterhood?
in sibling sisterhoods. I've
Yes.
experienced that even in sister, like
Mhm.
blood sister, DNA related sisterhood. And I'm talking about two siblings that are fully related to me. We have the same mother and father, right? Same mother and father. And there are different levels of sisterhood, even in both of my relationships with them. The common factor that runs around to all three of us and resonates with all three of us, this level is I will take care of your children regardless of how I feel about you, regardless of what beef I may have with you. I will take care of your children. We have all always held that common denominator. Always.
Yes.
It never fails. I pray to God never. Right now in our sisterhood that we don't even talk to each other very much. These are just things that you do for sisters that are part of your DNA, and I won't say even DNA pool, your DNA line. Because when you're whole siblings, you are a part of a line together, and you want that line to survive. So we take care of each other's children, regardless of how we feel about the other.
Right. So
Regardless.
that's
And our brothers, they do the same thing. For instance, my own situation, my brother is taking care of my children because of what's going on with me. That is a level of loyalty.
that's a level of loyalty. That goes back to village life, community
Yes.
life. See, I'm into community life, into we should all be helping to raise, you know what I mean? This whole it takes a village to raise a child idea that Americans really
I
have.
agree with that. But
Yes.
when you go through life situations, you pull on those resources.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is a level of loyalty. That's a sisterhood that's a strong bond because it involves your DNA progressing forward. You
Yeah.
know, that kind of loyalty is something that is absolutely unsaid. And if it's ever broken, that's when it um, breaks the trust the most because that is a deep underlying level of loyalty and morals and trust in a
Mhm.
sisterhood that is absolutely unspoken.
Right.
Absolutely unspoken. You
Right.
just know and have true knowledge that if anything happens, my siblings, my sister will take my children. She will be mother and she will treat them just like her own. That's an unsaid level of loyalty in a sisterhood.
Oh, okay. But
But
see,
I've only experienced that in DNA. I've not experienced that in a sisterhood who a woman is not related to me in a DNA train.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I don't know about that type of sisterhood.
Right. But what I was going to say is, how is this different than relating to men? Is there a place for women to women, like a sacred space that only women share? Because to me, as I've gotten older, like when I was younger, I probably didn't get it. But as I get older, I'm seeing the value of having female exclusive conversations, because
Oh,
only another woman can actually understand what we've gone through. It's a very different experience.
there are things that women go through that men will never go through.
Never go through
Really
ever.
isn't. Right. And it's only another woman that can not only empathize with you, but understand how situations could have worked out. And
Yeah.
understand the intensity and the impact of how that has on your personal human self, on your soul and your spirit. Only another woman who has been through things similar can resonate with you enough to be able to talk you through some things at times.
Yeah.
That's another level of sisterhood, because that kind of sisterhood is across all races. I
Mhm.
don't care who you are. If you've been
And
through my
generations.
situation and I don't, and I'm fresh in my situation, you can talk me through things that I never even knew I was having a problem with, but were still heavy on me.
Mhm.
That's a kind of sisterhood also that's unspoken, that humans
Yes.
just carry with them, you know?
Mhm. Yes. Mhm. It's
That one
totally
is
true.
very refreshing when you receive and when you can give. I've been on the receiving and giving end of both of that level of sisterhood. It's
Mhm.
amazing. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, it's also validating, because I feel like a lot of times men don't understand what we go through. And so if we end up feeling like maybe we're weird or we're crazy, but if you sit down with another woman, that's when you understand, oh my gosh, you feel the same way I do. And it validates you. It makes you realize you're not crazy, that you're not, a weirdo or something. It's just
Absolutely.
incredible. Yeah. And once you start competing, because women are so competitive with each other, you know, uh, it's just women are very competitive with each other. But when I grew older and I became more confident in myself and I didn't play those
You
games or
didn't
what.
feel the need to compete with anybody because of you knowing your own worth at that point. I
Yeah.
think when we start to receive our own worth, that's when we begin to receive sisters in our lives that
Yeah.
feel the same way about
Mhm.
themselves. And that causes us to stand stronger together in a sisterhood. When we
Yeah.
reach the same level and we're on the same level, even if you're just arriving, the people's level that you just arrived to in
Mhm.
that, I don't know, environment, situations, they support you to be there because they share their experiences, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
then you do the better.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
a giving and a taking in a sisterhood. And you have to allow that to happen.
Yep.
Sometimes the universe will set those things up so perfectly for you, just make you run right into them because it was meant to have that level of sisterhood. These are another things of unspoken sisterhoods, you
Yeah.
know?
Unspoken sisterhoods. I like how you said that. It's unspoken sisterhoods. And that also reminds me of when two women, you could be total strangers, you see another woman, you instantly know something about her and she knows something about you. Whereas like with men, yeah, exactly. Even at a
Absolutely.
level that like you don't know with your own man, that your
Right.
man himself cannot understand you on a level that you might understand a stranger, just because of this femaleness that we share.
Yes.
Being a little girl, being raised as a little girl is a unique experience. It's boys cannot
Yes.
understand what that is like to be a little girl.
Right. And honestly, for a lot of things to resonate with women across the whole world at one time of their own experiences and how things go, and still be able to give another woman the advice if you're, been through that before.
Yeah.
That resonates with women around the whole world. It really does, on different issues and things that happen to women in their lives that will never happen to men just because they're men.
There was a time, when I was living in Athens, and one of my guy friends said to me, "Oh, he likes to walk around at 4 in the morning. It's so peaceful. Why don't I do that?" And then he stopped himself and he said, "Oh, you can't do that. You're a girl." Like he realized that, like men can do that if they get robbed or something. But like for me, like a woman can't just walk around at 4 a.m. She'll get horrible things happen. But that was like a realization for him. He took for granted all these years that freedom. See, men have freedom. They have entry into certain places. They don't live every moment of their life in fear. Like what I was telling you about that stand-up thing I wanted to do, where when you're going on a blind date, the woman is afraid that she's going to get killed, whereas the guy's just like, "Oh, am I going to get sex or whatever?" The woman is literally legitimately wondering if she will make it back from that date alive. So it's different risk
Well, that
factors.
also causes women to dress down a lot of times.
Yeah,
I've had
yeah.
my own sister and a friend. They both worked at men's prisons, on one coast and one on another, and both having the same experience of having to dress down just so they can make it through certain situations
Mhm.
and keep their ladyship, their dignity, their self-worth. A lot of those things are lost when things happen to us in trauma and just emotional trauma, you know?
I feel like being a woman, we have we're resilient in a way that, like, we almost take trauma for granted.
I agree full-heartedly.
Yeah. So give me an example of a trauma that you take for granted.
I don't know that I take it for granted. I just try not to think about certain traumas because they hurt tremendously, and I'm not ready to deal with that pain yet, you know?
That's the thing
But I
too.
also think that women do that across the board. I think that we put ourselves last trying to take care of everyone.
We take
That's a
care of
system
everyone. We
there that
take
we
care of
all
everyone.
understand, regardless if you have children or not. You understand that.
Yeah, women
Because there are a lot of
are
people who put their friends and their family first, instead of thinking of themselves first and not knowing our own worth is only maintained because you maintain yourself, you know?
women. That's why women always need to be reminded to self-care, because
Absolutely.
women will not even self-care. We'll just go on autopilot and run ourselves into the ground. I saw this cartoon and it didn't have any words in it. It was just one panel and it was a woman, and she was cutting off with a butcher knife parts of her body and feeding them to crying children, like her children. And so the idea was that she was literally killing herself to feed her family. But the visual was, that's what women emotionally do every day. We put ourselves last. And then we're feeding the men in our life, we're feeding the children, whatever.
And we do that so much a lot of times when women go into depression is because they've neglected to do the same for themselves.
Mhm.
That is the
Right.
reason that most of our women go into depression because we didn't know self-care, regardless of what that self-care is. That self-care could be, it could look like taking a bath, singing to yourself, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
certain vibrations that you make from your throat chakra helps to even out your emotions, to let the, perceived negative energy go. We don't know those things about ourselves because we're not doing the self-care. Self-care means spiritual self-care, hygiene self-care. This is a part of self-care. Going off and taking a walk sometimes if you're feeling overwhelmed. Realize when you feel overwhelmed, I don't care what the situation is. These are self-care. Going to counseling if things are so heavy that meditation is not working for you. Checking out, I've been to shamans before. I'm of African American descent and everything that entails. I have been to a shaman before. Part of self-care because that's what I felt I needed. Be in
Yeah.
tune with who you are. That's all. This is another podcast that we're getting into, but taking good self-care does add to the quality of the sisterhood that you have with others. I
Okay.
got continuing the self-care, whatever that means for you.
Whatever that means for you, and maybe treating ourselves as if we do have value. If no one else is
Absolutely.
treating us, even if no one else is recognizing or affirming that value intrinsically, we can have that. Okay.
Also, thinking about when you start having symptoms of depression or anxiety, these are symptoms of not doing self-care with whatever the situations are in your life. You have to be able to maintain your spiritual core that joins with your soul so you can have balance within. I'll tell you, like my Abba told me, my father, if you do not maintain what is inside of you, you cannot maintain what is outside of you.
Right.
It's impossible. If you've already got a whirlwind of chaos going on the inside of you, it's impossible for you to think that you will be able to control anything outside of you first. You
Right.
first.
Right.
When you do that, it creates a quality you
Right.
have to beat yourself to on all levels. We're human,
We're
you
human.
know.
That's right.
What do you
All
think the levels are that we have, Renee?
right.
Levels of self. Because these levels of self build our sisterhoods, you know?
Right, 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 right. I think one thing that occurred to me today was when I was thinking about women and women's issues is that women, I think, struggle to have an identity more than men probably do. That women actually struggle to show that we are people at the same level that men are people. You know what I mean? To have an
Yeah.
identity, to love ourselves, to feel independent and affirmed. Whereas I think men kind of take that for granted, but I think women actually work. I've seen women really work throughout their lives to understand their identity and what that means for them, what their place is, what their purpose is, because we haven't always lived in a society that even felt we were human. Many societies didn't even allow women to have property. Women didn't always have the right to vote. Women were not always considered real people.
I
And
think
those,
because that was across the board in all of our history, that caused women to bond across all races
yes,
because we
yes,
we were treated the same across the board. It didn't matter what part of the country you were in. And even though all were treated bad across the board, some were being treated extremely worse than others.
yeah,
So I gotta say, that's another level of sisterhood
yeah,
that people should tap into. You never
hmm,
know who.
right. I think that's a good note to end on because I want to do another episode. So let me. Okay. So I'm gonna stop the recording and then we'll keep talking. But
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna stop.